Welcome back to the Mingo's Eye. In the Eye of the Mingo today, we were once again greeted by the educational expertise brought forth by three researchers investigating issues of our Bahamas today. I am your reporter, Alicia Russell, happy to dive into the next big scoop for the Mingo's Eye. A riveting discussion has just taken place in the Graduation Center at the main UB campus. On February 16th, Research Edge hosted its second session for the spring 2024 semester, where the three researchers diverged their findings of their latest studies. First to greet us was Dr. Mayuri Dika, who presented her findings under the topic, Why Care? Rethinking DEI, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion in the Bahamian Leadership within the literature classroom. Her research supports her conclusion on the importance and effect of diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace and the classroom. Her research shows that throughout the last few years, companies who have chose to increase diversity in the workplace experience a significant boom in performance. There is especially outperformance for companies with female executives compared to their male counterpart. These diversity-driven companies are more likely to be innovative, recruit top performers, and meet the needs of both their clientele and employees. She suggests that in the literature classroom, students should be introduced to characters who are different from themselves to make inclusion easier. However, due to the rapid changes happening in society, it is becoming harder to retain a person's sense of self, therefore making people very hostile to the idea of inclusion. She further pushes the ideal that empathy improves the business space and classroom's receptiveness to diversity, and offers ways to practice empathy inside the classroom. Some examples of these exercises are role-playing, journaling, and perspective-taking. Regarding my own classroom, I believe that I can use these exercises to make inclusion and exposure easier for my students. Furthermore, in the Bahamas, where island people do not like others from other communities coming to their communities, these studies can help make our people more welcoming and receptive to foreign ideas and people. Next to present his work was Dr. Ancelino Davis, who studied place-based learning, science, education, practice, and equity in the Bahamian archipelago. He spoke on how the Bahamas should lead its own research rather than relying on outside nations to do the work for us. However, science within the Bahamas has not been very inclusive of itself. He says that all Bahamians should be able to take charge of science regarding its own nation, and emphasizes the need for spaces to foster such results. He speaks on how science in the Bahamas should be useful, legal, ethical, and feasible. He has three goals for science within the Bahamas. All Bahamians should be able to study the Bahamas while in the Bahamas. All Bahamians should be able to complete an environmental science degree on their own island. And all Bahamian environmental science graduates should be employable within 1 year of graduating. Our research should be useful for our own nation. He speaks to there being many resources useful for environmental research all around the Bahamas. He aims to bring science to every corner of the Bahamas and create unique places of study belonging solely to the Bahamas and bring in more Bahamian representation into science. This pushes the Bahamas further into development and independence, as there is a severe lack of information on our own nation, even to its own people. In my own classroom, I can push for students to be more invested in our nation scientifically and lead those with interest in science to take to places in the nation which can help them further their fields, such as the research-rich Northern Bahamas in Abaco, Eleuthero, and Andros. Last but not least, we have Dr. William Fielding providing his insights on the topic that differs severely from the previous two, enduring the harsh reality of punishment for our children. He speaks on the use of corporal punishment being socially unacceptable for everyone except our children. However, corporal punishment, especially that of using objects, have severe negative effects on our youth. He says that violence does not stop at the surface level, but leads on to trauma and deeper implications. There are many ways people have tried justifying violence, though. In Bahamian society, the Bible is often used as a way to defend violence against children. Many people also agree that corporal punishment is not violence. Another number of people believe that since they supposedly turned out as decent citizens, that corporal punishment is just fine. However, his studies show that children who have had violence committed against them are more likely to be violent in return. They also show that these people are more likely to use corporal punishment on their own children compared to people who have not been exposed to violence. This is especially true for women, as they are more likely to employ corporal punishment on their children. However, his studies show that he also explores how unwanted violence is related to sexual coercion in relationships. Men are more likely to use physical abuse on women, while women are more likely to use psychological abuse on men. I find his research very insightful. This will affect the way I use discipline in my own classroom. Luckily, the Bahamas has already issued a ban on corporal punishment in the classroom. However, many teachers today still use it despite this law. It should be a focus to find and implement different ways of discipline that does not use violence. Here ends our session for the Mingo's Eye. Thank you for your attention.